In our body, we have anaerobic energy systems, which is simply a word, anaerobic, which means without oxygen. And we have aerobic energy systems, and aerobic is a word that means with oxygen. It's become a colloquial term these days where people just say aerobics, or it's like, I'm doing cardio, and they think that means heart and lung stuff, or if they are out of breath, they think I need better cardio, and they don't really understand the difference. But these systems are running in the background inside our bodies at all times.
We are about to launch
Solo round.
Truth Not Trends!
Boom, baby.
What's going on? Train outside the box, changing the world one set at a time. TNT Strength in the house.
What's going on, people? Jesse Schmidt and Liam Bauer.
We are here live in the TNT Strength studio.
Oakland, California.
That's right, where it's happening.
This is the podcast where we help you maximize your strength as safely
And efficiently
as possible. My name is Jesse Schmidt. I've been a strength coach for 2,524 days.
Days, people. That's right. My name is Liam Bauer. I've been a strength coach for 36 years and counting.
And counting. Count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 36.
Woo, there we go. 1, 2, 3. Come on, baby, say I love you.
People, today we're talking about conditioning for your sport.
That's right. We're talking about 10 things we know about conditioning. We're talking about energy system development. That's what I like to call it. Cardio, aerobics, anaerobics. What is it? We're going to talk all about it today.
Talking all about it. But before we get to the episode, make sure you sit back, mix yourself up a hearty protein shake that you can purchase at tntstrength.com.
That's right. With some of our lean mass support, delicious, chocolatey good whey protein.
Good.
Mix it with some egg whites and some PB2 and get the Jesse Special 80-gram slimy peanut butter cup.
Oh, yeah. And that's not all we offer at tntstrength.com. We also have a creatine monohydrate.
That's right. Boom.
Vitamin D3K2.
Bang.
An omega-3 fish oil supplement.
Kapow.
And a probiotic.
A blammo.
These are 5 supplements that we recommend we take on a daily basis. And you could too. Of course, at TNT Strength, we recommend a whole food, high protein diet. But, you know, if you have some gaps in your nutrition, then these can be a great way to fill them and take your training to the next level.
That's right. A little creatine, little protein. You can't go wrong. You're
Yum,
going to get stronger. You're going to feel better.
And of course, if you're in the continental United States, you lucked out because we offer free shipping on these bad boys.
That's right.
They'll come right to your door.
From Maine to Oregon.
You do have to pay tax
Everywhere
because
in between.
that's America. We pay taxes here. Unless you have all of your holdings in offshore accounts, you know.
In Bitcoin.
In Bitcoin, if you cash it out, you do have to pay taxes on Bitcoin.
Oh.
Yeah, even though it's sort of an imaginary thing. That's another podcast.
Imaginary
episode.
taxes.
So people pour your liquid egg whites and your chocolate protein into your shaker. Don't shake it up. Mix it up, because if you shake it up, it's going to turn into a meringue.
Don't put it in the blender.
Don't blend it. It's going to get thick and frothy, and then that's going to take a while to eat.
You'll be like foam with a spoon.
Once you got that going, sit back and hang in for a beautiful solo round about conditioning for your sport.
Yeah, buddy. What's going on, everybody? We're back in the studio. Today we are talking, in the past, we've talked a little bit like 10 things we know about strength training, 10 things we know about nutrition.
10 things I hate about you.
I hate you so much it makes me sick. It even makes me rhyme.
There we go.
Great 90s film.
How to lose a guy in 10 days.
7 days isn't like a lifetime or anything.
It's like a week.
How can we not have a gulf between us with a tone like that?
Today we're going to talk about conditioning. We're not just strength coaches, we're conditioning coaches. Matter of fact, earlier in my career, that was kind of really what I was known for. I was embracing the high intensity, brief, intense sort of conditioning stuff way back, as far back as the 80s when people would spend 2 hours on the Stairmaster, and I was telling them they should do like 10 minutes, and they thought I was insane and just go harder. But obviously high intensity interval training came in and became a giant buzz. Now it's just a word that gets thrown around constantly. Matter of fact, it's so ubiquitous that if you look up high intensity training, Google automatically just thinks you're talking about high intensity interval training.
Yeah.
It just always just jumps to that idea.
Go home, Google. You're drunk.
Yeah.
But hey, hang on, Taku. Before we get to the meat and potatoes here, remember we have this enormous announcement to make for our listeners here.
Which is,
well, if you've been paying attention to TNT, you know that we've owned a brick and mortar for about 3 years now.
that's right.
And actually, on the day this episode is released, it'll be 3 years to the day.
Nice.
That's our 3-year anniversary.
That's what I'm talking about.
And the big news is that we have decided to pull a complete 180.
Oh, that's what we're doing. I'm very confused.
The TNT that you knew and loved, we're throwing everything out and going back to the drawing board. So you knew us as the guys who, took you through brief, intense workouts twice a week, 2 full body programs with 2 full days of rest in between.
That's right.
But we are actually scrapping that, and we now recommend 7-day-a-week strength training programs.
Yeah, well, actually, we all the research keeps saying that volume is king, right?
Volume is king.
Volume wins hands down. I mean, Dr. Mike says so. So it has to be true.
And the other thing is that we
He's
used
that,
to
that little
recommend
teeny guy you see on YouTube.
we used to recommend that you train to failure, and we now recommend don't train anywhere near failure.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're getting above a 1 out of 10 in intensity in your workouts, that's too high, and you need to probably settle down. Let your while you're exercising, your heart rate should be below your resting heart rate.
Is that possible?
I don't know, but that's what we're recommending now.
Yeah, my resting heart rate is not as low as it could be. So maybe I could get it lower if I was like moving very slowly and not intensely at all.
And the other thing too, along with the training, because that's only half of the equation. When we used to recommend to our clients that they eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body fat and try to eat the amount of calories in a day that's equal to their ideal body weight with a 0 at the end.
Right.
No, all the great results that people got from following that advice, we don't advise that anymore.
No.
We advise the exact opposite. So here's what you're going to do. I want you to go out and eat no protein. No, we don't believe in protein anymore.
Okay.
The results are too good. Too good when you eat an adequate amount of protein.
That's
so
right.
don't eat any of it anymore. I want you to eat popcorn.
Nice.
You're on the popcorn diet.
And you don't even get to put cheese on it.
No,
that would
no
be
butter, no cheese, straight up popcorn.
Dry popcorn? Dry, saltless popcorn?
Dry, flavorless popcorn.
Oh my God.
Could be kettle corn because that's sugar and that's carbs.
No,
and we believe in carbs.
I don't like kettle corn, but I
Exclusively.
guess if this is the way we're going.
So you're now a
I'm gonna
popcornaholic.
I'm going to learn to embrace it.
Okay, no protein whatsoever. Okay, and what you were doing with your calories before, where you were eating
all
your
you people
body
that have
weight.
been whining about how hard it is to get your protein, you can stop whining.
Yeah, no,
Don't get it.
no, yeah. So
When you go shopping, stay away from the meat aisle. We're not saying be a vegan, but you could get Pop-Tarts.
fruitarian probably.
Yeah, maybe you could get Pop-Tarts.
Pop-Tarts.
You could get,
just make sure there's no protein in them. If there's protein in them, switch to a different
Oh
flavor.
my God, yeah. I would say stay, we're going to reverse. So rather than how you used to say go around the perimeter of the store, stay in those center aisles.
Yeah, stay on the center aisle.
Yeah,
you only eat things out of packages, boxes,
Bags.
bags.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
The brighter the colors on the bags, the better too.
And-
It should look like an Amazonian snake, right?
And the longer, I like that. Yeah, like those poison dart frogs, or like a peacock tail, and just like whoa, overwhelm, or like one of those jumping spiders during his mating rituals, sending the color signals. It's like semaphore. But yeah, how about also like easiest way to find the best thing when you pick up the thing off the aisle. When you see a huge paragraph of stuff that's hard to understand, that's your food right there. You want a big paragraph with lots of words that you don't recognize.
Like you want more ingredients on the box of crackers than there are crackers in the bag.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you just want to see all these words that don't really make sense, or they're challenging to like sort of articulate. There's so many syllables, too many letters.
Yeah,
I can't even.
So just to sum up, if you're listening to this episode, forget everything you ever heard from us. You should be training every day of the week, not hard at all. Eat just whatever your calories are, just triple them right now, and make sure none of those calories are coming from protein.
Yeah,
and the results are not going to be good, but they're going to be something, and
well, they will happen.
They'll taste delicious.
Things will
probably.
change.
Things will definitely change. And also April Fools. Don't follow any of the recommendations we just gave.
That's right.
We've been basically recommending the same stuff over and over for what, 7 years that we've been producing this podcast now.
right, yeah.
To train hard 2 days a week, full body workouts, a couple days of rest in between, eat your body weight in grams of protein, control your calories. And when you do all those things on a consistent basis, you'll get incredible results.
That's right.
So do that, and don't do anything that we recommended before now.
When I was a moderator on the forum years ago, people, that was the biggest complaint. People would be like, every time you say something, it sounds the same as the last time. I'm like, that's a good thing.
That's a good
I'm
thing.
not contradicting myself. All right, people.
Now we can get
April
to the meat and
Fools.
potatoes.
Happy April Fool's Day.
Yeah, we're really in 2024 now, people. It's the end. It's the beginning of the second quarter. So
is that a separate episode that we just did right there?
Probably, but we're gonna make it into one.
Okay, we're gonna add it to this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So now we're in the real thing. Hopefully that was entertaining or something.
I've been confused the whole time.
Well,
Jesse is like, there's no script.
No script.
We're just we're rolling.
Improv.
There's like a little nicotine pill sitting there. It's like calling his name. I'm not sure. Oh my God. Okay.
Pre-workout.
You must be working out today.
Mm-hmm.
He's taking some nicotine, people. So what I was saying way back when, before we went all over the place with our April Fool's gotcha, is we were going to talk about some conditioning. We talked about 10 things we know about strength training, 10 things we know about nutrition. We're going to talk a little bit about 10 things we know about conditioning. Conditioning, AKA, sometimes people might call it cardio. Some people might call it, anaerobic stuff. I like to call it energy system development. Making it specific. When you work with athletes, depending on the sport, the activity that they're participating in, they're going to use different energy systems or different energy systems will dominate. What are energy systems? In our body, we have basically three. We have anaerobic energy systems, which is simply a word, anaerobic, which means without oxygen. And we have aerobic energy systems, and aerobic is a word that means with oxygen. It's become a colloquial term these days where people just say aerobics, or it's like, I'm doing cardio, and they think that means heart and lung stuff. Or if they are out of breath, they think I need better cardio, and they don't really understand the difference. But these systems are running in the background inside our bodies at all times, kind of like a hybrid car. You've got the internal combustion engine, which I would equate as the anaerobic system, and you have the electric engine, which I would equate as the aerobic system. Aerobic systems have minimal exhaust and can produce energy at low levels of output, and just on and on and on. Whereas the anaerobic system produces high amounts of exhaust, but it's more powerful. So these systems are always running in the background, and the ones that dominate are depending on the effort of the activity that you're participating in and duration and things like that. So we can control those systems by training specifically to meet the demands of whatever it is we're trying to accomplish. Does that sound complicated?
Sounds pretty straightforward.
All right, well, let's hope so. Okay,
let's break it down a little bit here.
let's break it down. Okay, because of the specificity of energy demands, varied muscle contraction dynamics, and general body stress and fatigue, playing and practicing your sport should be a priority. So if you're playing a sport, right, it just makes sense. If you want to get good at basketball, play basketball. You want to get good at soccer, play soccer. Lacrosse, blah, 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 insert sport there. Just like in the good old days, you can play yourself into shape, okay? It's quote unquote sport specific, and still true today. That said, following a sensibly designed conditioning program can further prepare you for the rigors of competition, provided it fits with all the different components of your strength training activities and practice sessions, and does not overstress your body's recovery systems. All right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, like strength training, a legitimate conditioning activity must A, create an overload on the energy systems, and B, allow for adequate recovery. It's just like strength training, right? You got to take both parts into your mind. And C, it has to be progressive, right? Just like strength training, we have to have a progressive overload. Your conditioning systems or your conditioning activities have to be progressive as well, right? You can't run the same distance for the same amount of time at the same pace and expect improvements, okay? So we need to adjust things like running intensity, volume, the distance, recovery times, okay? And obviously you have to have consistency. You got to perform on a regular basis for those things to all work.
Booyah. I concur.
Exactly. I was waiting for that. All right. Okay. All other factors being equal, running speed can be improved if you Number one, get as strong as possible. Number two, stay lean, right? Less body fat, less extra just stuff to drag around. And obviously, you have to practice the skills of running fast or moving fast at that specific activity, right? There's running in a straight line is not the same as running in patterns. Like in football, for instance, they call it, skilled pattern running, right? When those guys run those routes, they practice those routes over and over and over again at game speed, right? They have to be able to do it in their sleep. These are very specific patterns that they get so good at. And again, we see it every day if you're an NFL fan, right? These guys juke each other out there, right? They don't have any super unusual patterns. They just are good at executing them in a timely fashion. All right. Okay. An important factor to understand when you're kind of get good at this stuff, like I guess, whether it's agility or different things, is that there's a lot of sort of junk stuff being promoted out there, like purported speed drills that don't replicate the exact body mechanics, the same speed, muscle contractions, angles of force output, all that stuff. They may not transfer to improve your speed, okay? The principle of specificity states that to become proficient in any activity, that specific activity has to be practiced, right? If it's almost or close to it, it's not exact, it's not going to work, okay? This is why things like, I've been talking out against things like these agility ladders forever, right? I'll see these soccer coaches, they'll get the little agility ladders out there and they'll have their soccer players do these stupid little footwork patterns on these agility ladders. And the only thing that will do for you is make you better at running the agility ladder, right? And unless you're competing in agility ladder competitions, there's literally no reason to do that. And soccer is a great example. The number one most important thing in soccer is ball mastery, right? Having control of the movement of that ball on your foot. And so the more time you can spend practicing that activity of actually moving the ball, passing, touching, stopping, moving with the ball at your feet, the better you're going to be. And so every minute that you spend on that ladder is a minute you could have been spending with the ball, right? So I'm always trying to talk these guys out of wasting time with these agility ladders when they could just be spending time of actually improving their ball skills, right? And the same thing would be with basketball, right? You got to have those good handles, as they say. You got to do dribbling drills. If you're actually dribbling a basketball, that's a great idea. If you're spending time running up and down a little ladder drills, it's not going to improve your basketball skills.
I concur, and I'll say that people are incredibly stubborn about these sort of things.
Yeah, oh my God.
I think a lot of these drills, there's more going on than just the drill, right? There's a teamwork aspect there. Just everybody's doing a thing. There's also kind of a hierarchical aspect going on of, well, coach says do the drill, so I need to do the drill because the coach is the coach and they say what I do, so I need to do it. And
right.
So there's sort of a adherence to authority, right? Submission to authority there. But authority can be wrong. And hopefully, if you are a coach or you have a coach who's open-minded, which is a great quality for a coach, they'll be open to considering that this might be a total waste of time.
Yeah.
And that you'd be better off just playing the sport to get better at it.
Actually, I have a good article from way back on the blog that talks about SPICE as an acronym, SPICE. And it's a simple formula you can use to just improve general sports activities. So go look up that article in the blog, how to spice things up in your training for sports. That's a good one. I don't have the date in front of me, but you'll find it.
Hey, what are those guys doing here? Whenever I feel like I'm stalling out on my bench press, I know I need a new strength curve.
Whether you're stalling out on the road or stalling out in the gym, you need something with great engineering.
That's right. And
So
I
look
want
for the pendulum.
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 Not just your average strength machines.
No, they have smooth strength curves.
Amazing rigidity.
And did we mention the engineering's fantastic?
That's right. Not to mention, they come in cool colors.
Like red.
And silver. Well, that was kind of weird. What was that all about? Back to the interview.
Another thing, obviously, that sort of almost could go without saying it, is you got to be in good shape, right? You have to have a base of general fitness in order to be able to condition yourself and to be able to participate in these things that will enhance your speed program. Okay, if you're tired all the time, you're not going to be able to run at maximum speed, right? So we have to have a basic level of conditioning, which they kind of go together, right? Practicing these things will improve that base, and having that base will improve your ability to practice, right? So that it's all connected. Another thing to think about is that straight line sprinting ability does not correlate to lateral or backward agility and all that kind of stuff, right? So again, if you're a straight line sprinter, you're a 100-meter person, 200-meter person, even though they're running a slight curve, that's a different thing to, 40-yard dashes, 60 meters, whatever. Those straight line things are different than someone who has to cut. Make, again, these patterns in football or going around an opponent in soccer or lacrosse, where you have to move sideways laterally quickly around or, through people. So both those things have to be practiced separately. Okay. So think specificity again to the activity that you're doing. There's, there are obviously tons of track and field people that do just, long jumpers. They're doing straight line stuff. But otherwise, if your sport is something else, what I usually call open field sports, ultimate frisbee, lacrosse, soccer, rugby, then you should be working on different types of agility, right? Because you have to move in all kinds of directions, put on the brakes, back up, change direction. You might be chasing someone. You might be trying to avoid someone. All that stuff has to be practiced.
I concur.
So as I mentioned in the beginning, all the energy systems, the ATP, PC system, which is, your immediate sort of system, your lactic acid short-term, kind of high power stuff, your aerobic long-term, lower power stuff, they're all activated at the onset of any activity. What determines which system is relied upon the most is the intensity and length of the activity. Okay. So again, if there's a different energy system in charge when you're running 100 meters versus 800 meters versus a marathon, right? The different energy systems are dominating versus, being an Ironman triathlete. They're very different, right? And you have to train specifically for those things too. A lot of people make the mistake when they're training for short distance speeds. Maybe you're a baseball player and you want to, you only have to run from home to first, right? As fast as possible. That distance is specific. You need to run that distance and practice running in a straight line as fast as you can in those distances, right? It's not going to help you to go jog 5 miles.
Yeah, I remember reading the autobiography of Ty Cobb, and he was a controversial character, a racist, depending on who you ask. But
not a nice guy, apparently.
One of the urban legends about him was that he sharpened his spikes so he could cut people up when he slid into them. He said that was not true, but that was actually a practical joke he played on the Philadelphia A's, because at the I forget if it was in Philadelphia or if it was at Tiger Stadium, the visiting team had to walk through the home team's dugout. And so he knew that, and he was sitting in the dugout with a nail file, looking like he was sharpening his spikes just to freak them out.
That's funny.
And that's where it was born. Anyway, I digress. He wrote about in that book how he practiced running the bases, which some coaches have baseball players run bases as a drill, but oftentimes you're only running bases in a game. And it's a great idea to run bases in practice, because if you're just running in a straight line, that's not what you're actually doing in the sport. Rarely. If you're in the outfield, yeah, you might sprint, 40 yards. 40 yards is probably too far though. Probably, 30 yards at most, because a fly ball is only in the air for 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So Ty Cobb would practice running around bases. He would, and when Liam says specificity, like we're talking, you have to practice running home to first, home to second, home to third, inside the park home run, right? Practice running first to second, first to third, first to home, second to third, second to home, third to home.
Yeah, these are
tagging up on a fly.
Turns have to be made, right? This,
all of those things.
Diamond, yeah, you have to change directions, except for that first run, right, where you're just trying to make it to first. That is a straight ahead sprint, but that can be practiced by itself as well.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever your sport is, if you're playing tennis, forehand, backhand, running forward forehand, running backward backhand, right? Through the legs, you think Andre Agassi has never practiced that through the legs shot that catches his opponent completely off guard? No, he's practiced it 1,000 times, even though he's rarely going to use it, just like Steph Curry's practiced his 3/4 shot 1,000 times. And that's why he makes them sometimes, because you might think it looks improvised, but these world-class athletes are practicing the basics over and over and over so many times that it looks natural, kind of like a stand-up comedian, right?
Right.
They're not just getting up there and improvising. Jerry Seinfeld has practiced the same jokes, different iterations, right? Variations on a theme, hundreds and thousands of times. So that by the time he gets up there on the stage, he can adapt in the moment to something he's practiced a million times, and he knows the joke is going to land.
Yeah, and this is a great thing to keep in mind. The more you practice these things, the smaller adjustment required, right, to make that little change, right? And the more you practice these slight variations, those adjustments become quicker and easier. And I've been saying this for years, right? Probably on a bunch of our podcasts in the past, is that there's no such thing as advanced athletes. They just do the basics better, right? The best athletes have practiced those basics and they execute them better, right? Like, again, Steph Curry doesn't have some magic thing that nobody else has as far as what a shot is, right? Shooting a basketball is shooting a basketball. It's the same for everyone, the mechanics, but you have to put in the time. And probably one of the greatest legends for putting in the time was Kobe Bryant, right? Like, I mean, I hear these stories about in the Olympics when these guys were in, they're off, everyone's partying all night and everything. He's up at 4 going to the gym. They're coming home from partying all night and they see him at 4 with his gym bag and they're like, where are you going? I'm going to train. That guy was always trying to improve.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Like his worth ethic, like that's all he cared about.
Yeah. And so, you hear these sayings about, well, practice makes perfect. You can, I think, improve upon that quote and say, that perfect practice makes perfect, right? Specific perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah, and something to keep in mind for that sort of thing is if there's something the more technical the thing is that you're trying to improve, the more fresh you should be when you're trying to improve it, right? You don't want to practice highly technical things, or in the beginning they might be more technical, right? As you get better at them, they may not be, but when it's something that's really requires attention and so forth, you want to be as fresh as possible. So you should be doing that early in your practice sessions, the highly technical stuff, so that you can program it. You want perfect programming. You're creating motor pathways. You're creating these connections in your brain and in your nervous system. And you want to be fresh and dial in. You want to, as he's saying, perfect practice, right? We want the mechanics to be dialed in, and you want to be as fresh as possible when you do that kind of stuff. You don't want to be all tired trying to learn a new thing. This is true for all kinds of sports, whether it's sprinting, soccer, jiu-jitsu. Okay. So hopefully by now you're understanding that you don't need to jog for 30, 45 minutes, right? Keep your heart rate in the aerobic zone.
Zone 2.
Air quotes. Yeah, exactly. So much of that going on. To burn body fat. Okay. Shorter, higher intensity lactate threshold work actually gets you more bang for your buck since it burns a lot of calories. Also, post-exercise fatty acid mobilization from the adipose tissue, right, which is your fat, is accelerated after demanding high intensity work. We heard of the term EPOC. You sometimes hear people throwing around. You can improve your lactate threshold and VO2 max with a variety of training regimens. You can short and long intervals, fartlek runs. I got a whole article about that on the blog as well. Fartlek.
You farted?
Yeah, fartlek. That's a funny word. FARTLEK. It means speed play. We got a great article about that on the blog. Go track it down. Fartlek runs, continuous runs, using various speeds and distances, volumes, work to rest ratios. Play with all that stuff, okay? Number 10, we've been running down the list. This was 10 things about conditioning. Genetics also plays a role in conditioning, okay? Just like it does with gaining muscle and everything else, jumping. Some people are endowed with a high percentage of the slow type 1 fibers, and they may possess a better endurance and recover faster. And some people might have more type 2 fibers or faster fibers. So again, athletes are born, not made, right? We do know that these days there's also intermediate fibers, and sometimes we jokingly say they can go both ways. So they'll sort of tilt more in the direction of the training that you're doing. You cannot change ultimately your fiber output. Some of us are born, most of us, with a sort of a mix of different types of fibers in different areas. Some people have very, very dominant systems where they're mostly faster twitch fibers, mostly slower twitch fibers. And those are the ones that tend to excel at these certain sports, whether it's higher output sports or longer distance sports. Again, at this point, we're not building athletes in the lab yet, although it's probably not too far away. That's pretty much all we got to say about it.
There we go. Work hard, train specifically, recover well.
Exactly. Make sure you're eating. Don't waste your time doing stuff that has nothing to do with the thing you're trying to accomplish.
Remember, ignore all the stuff we said in the beginning of this episode about tripling your calories and eating no protein.
Exactly.
Train specifically.
And shopping on the inside of the grocery store.
Eat your body weight in grams of protein every day.
Eat your body weight in grams of Pop-Tarts.
Strawberry, because they don't have any protein.
Oh, nice.
Keep your calories in a reasonable range that makes sense for you. And strength train. We were talking about conditioning here, but make sure you do your strength training.
That will help you run faster as well.
Liam said a key thing in there, which is when you're working on the fine skills, right? When you're working on hitting the 90-mile-an-hour fastball, or if you're hitting your tennis forehand into the back right corner of the box, you should be practicing those specific skills before the strength training, probably, because when you fatigue your muscles from the strength training, we lose a little bit of that fine motor ability, right? So we have to be good at the fine motor skills when it comes time to actually play the competitive game, right? And so we want to be at our best at that time.
Yes.
Liam concurs.
I concur. That's our new thing.
Yep.
Boom, baby.
Boom, baby! What's up, people? Thank you so much for listening to this episode of
Truth, not trends.
That's right here at TNT Strength Headquarters, Truth Not Trends.
Please, if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And don't forget to share with a friend.
You can find us on the web at tntstrength.com.
That's right, TNT Strength now coming to you in person at 5255 College Avenue in Oakland, California. You can call the studio 510-768-5421. You can also text us at 855-796-9905.
Or shoot us an email at contact@tntstrength.com. And whatever you do, stay off of that stupid blue bubbly boasting.
Cappy, we did 2.
Utah!
We did 2, Cap.
Give me 2!
Mixed and edited by Desmond McNeese for We Mixed It, LLC. Go to whatsoundsawesome.com.